I cannot speak English because I do not have rich vocabulary. आप भी यही सोचते हैं कि जब तक आपके पास एक अच्छी रिच वोकेबलरी ना हो जाए आप इंग्लिश नहीं बोल पाएंगे. हिंदुस्तान में, इन इंडिया, बहुत से लोग सोचते हैं कि उनको इंग्लिश बोलने के लिए अच्छी वोकेबलरी का होना बहुत जरूरी है. Is it really important to have a rich vocabulary to speak in English? I want to break your myth today. You do not need a rich vocabulary to speak English. Many individuals harbor this misconception that need a vast vocabulary to effectively communicate in English. This belief often acts as a barrier, hindrance to their confidence and fluency in the English language. However, it's the time now to dispel this myth and embrace the reality that effective communication in English is achievable with the words you already know. Firstly, let's together acknowledge that the language proficiency is not solely depend on the number of words you have in your arsenal. While a diverse vocabulary can certainly enrich your expression, it's not the sole determination of effective communication. In fact, communication primarily relies on the conveying ideas, thoughts, and emotions clearly and effectively, which can be achieved with a modest vocabulary. Consider this. In everyday conversation, we often rely on the core set of words that we have and the phrases to express ourselves. These familiar expressions, coupled with proper grammar and pronunciations, enable us to effectively communicate our message. It's not about using complex vocabulary words. Rather, it's about conveying meaning accurately and comprehensibly. Furthermore, research suggests that a relatively small number of words are sufficient enough for everyday communications. Studies have shown that around 3,000 to 5,000 words cover the major of vocabulary used in daily life and the casual conversations. These are the words commonly taught where in basic English courses and acquired through regular exposure to the language in the school or the conversation that you have with friends or family members. Let's break it down further with some example. I'm gonna meet him, or I'm going to meet him. I'll visit him tomorrow. I bought a new bike. These are very simple sentences. They effectively convey the intended message without the need for elaborate vocabulary. By focusing on the clarity and simplicity, you can communicate proficiently in English, even with a limited vocabulary, right? So, it is important for every one of us to recognize that the language learning is a gradual process. Rather than fixating on acquiring vast array of vocabulary words, focus on mastering the ones you already know. Practice using them in various contexts. Engage in the conversation and expose yourself to English media to reinforce your language skills. Become good at speaking English. So, in conclusion, do not let the myth of needing the rich vocabulary deter you from speaking English. Embrace the words you know. Focus on the clear communication and remember, the effective language proficiency is about more than just the number of words. With dedication and regular practice, you can overcome this linguistic barrier and communicate fluent English. So do not restrict yourselves with this thought that if you do not know enough vocabulary, you will not be able to speak English fluently. That's barely a myth, because the word that you got in your arsenal today, that you have learned talking to your friends, that you have learned in this school, that you have learned speaking in different forums, that you may be hearing from other people and trying to absorb in your vocabulary. By practicing all of them daily basis, you would build a rich vocabulary eventually. But at the same time, the words that you have learned so far, maybe around 3,000 to 5,000 words, a person learns when he is into school. Those other words are good enough for anybody to start speaking in English. What matters most is that you speak and converse in English. It doesn't matter whether you are using fancy words, because the fancy words that you use, if people are not able to understand those words and are unable to get the intended meaning, then you lose the essence of communication. You are not conveying the message the way you want to. So using rich vocabulary may work in few forums, but not in every forum. So you have to understand this, that speaking English is not dependent on using a rich vocabulary. So do not restrict. Start speaking with your friends, your family, and create the environment around you. Start speaking in English with whatever vocabulary that you have. It's not a problem at all. And then when you start speaking and you build confidence, yes, you can speak and converse in English, start building your vocabulary day by day. Make a target to maybe go on and learn fewer words each day with their meaning and the context they are used in, and then start using them. But do not bog yourself down with this idea that you cannot speak English. And to speak English, you need the fancy vocabulary words.